Hello everybody. I'm by myself for the moment. We're at the beginning of the video. For those of you watching later, I'm sorry it's a little boring at the beginning. I don't want to just talk to myself. I talk to other people. But as you can see, we'll be discussing Viimee Toys Cute Protector Commander. I don't know why he's called a Cute Protector when he's the bad guy. I thought I'd do a few comparisons with Unique Toys Dragoon, big guy, and who doesn't really like to stand sometimes, and the Voyager, probably the best outside of Dragoon version of that Megatron. I have the leader class figure too, and the kind of big 3-step changer or whatever, and they're terrible, so I don't include them. My day's been alright. How's your day, Shark? Hello, RL Comic Art. You were there, indeed. So we'll do a little size comparison. This is the Voyager version of Last Night Megatron. Pretty good figure, really. The transformation's pretty clever. They hide the wings like on his legs. On the backs of his legs, which is pretty cool, I guess. Of course, there's Viimee Toys. We just saw that stop motion on Sunday. And then, of course, the amazing Unique Toys Dragoon. Here's the size comparison. Dragoon is way bigger than all of them. But we'll have to keep him out of the way for now because we're going to be focusing on Viimee. Dragoon had his moment in the sunlight. Now it's time to talk about somebody else. What do you mean, me? Yeah, you. Just gonna take a little drink of soda here. Ah, that's refreshing. Yes, indeed. All right. How's everyone? Everyone staying safe? Just remember, if you're going to loot a store, no more than 25 people inside at a time. This Viimee Toys guy came with quite an elaborate... I mean, for the price, he was like $70 US. But he came with like a rather fancy and elaborate container. Real nice. Has like one of those magnetic flaps, which is nice, and it came with he came packed in high density foam. So there's the packaging. It's just kind of fascinating that they put so much time and effort into the packaging. Again, it's weird that he's called Cute Protector. I really hope they do a Optimus Prime. It would be neat to have like a super deformed Optimus Prime that turned into what looked like a perfectly normal tractor unit. We'll get into a small discussion here. The box he came in was surprisingly heavy because it has this resin sculpture. It's pretty solid plastic. It's pretty heavy. It just looks like some crushed up metal stuff. And it also includes this silly little cannon thing. And it's just a display base. Doesn't do much. Talk about this dude. He's pretty cool. He came with a broken shoulder, I don't know what you call it, shoulder shaft. So you can see there, like this one, you can see it has those grooves in it, and it's a solid piece. And over here I had to use I use some Bondic to fill in the grooves because it sets really quickly. It uses a UV light to set. And then I kind of coated the armature with this stuff. JB Weld steel reinforced epoxy. Fancy. But your binary epoxies are probably your strongest materials to work with. And ever since I did it that way, he's held together pretty well, although I'm still paranoid about the thing just suddenly popping off one day, breaking. Consequently, I don't want much twisting action because that seems to be something that can cause it to break. So I like to loosen up the ball joint by twisting the arm this way before I start trying to rotate it. But he's got pretty good articulation. The elbow can bend a bit, 45 degrees, a little over. The shoulder's pretty articulated, except it collides with the head quite a bit, so it has its limits. Same here, over here on this arm, it's about the same. He doesn't really have a waist swivel. He does have a head swivel and quite a bit of head articulation, especially there's kind of a bit that bends forward to bring his chin forward. But if you bring the chin back, the head clears a little better and you can rotate it a little better. But he can look up and he can look down and all that stuff. And then he's got these waist skirts that you can kind of get out of the way. They should really be up there. He's got legs. I don't know if he really poses in many other poses because he doesn't have that much articulation, but you know, he has joints where he's supposed to have joints, so he can have kind of subtle stance art, you know, poses. But I don't know that he's going to do like the superhero landing pose or anything like that. But let's transform this guy and maybe discuss some of the tricks and clearance issues. He has a couple of clearance issues. This mace in this one hand is really tight. It doesn't want to go all the way in. But we take off those weapons. They do get integrated into the plane mode, which is nice. And I suppose the first thing we're going to do is get the head transformed. That's not really what the instructions say, but I'm not going to do what the instructions say. So the first thing we're going to do is kind of untab this. And he's small enough. I'll go in both directions, so we're not going to get into like how to do it in reverse because I'll just do it. I like to get these loosened up. These two bits. They're going to rotate eventually. And then these, the wings end up kind of inside the head there. But we're just bringing that out a little bit. And you can actually kind of go ahead and rotate it and tab it in to its final position. And then you can flip out the wing tips. And then we can do the same thing over here. Sometimes the ball joint, I can show you on this side as I bring it out. Sometimes that ball joint right there will pop out if you're not careful. So it's a little bit of a safety feature. If you pull too hard on it, it'll probably pop out and not break. And now that we got the sides of the head out of the way, we can split his brain. And they both kind of have their own swing arm. Get that untabbed. And we just kind of bring them both out to the sides. The instructions are a little vague here and there, so you probably shouldn't try to follow those. We can flip these up. They're going to go all the way over at some point, but it just kind of helps to get them out of the way. We can spread this out a little bit so it doesn't collide. And we rotate the whole head around 180 degrees, or the top half of the head. And then we can fold this part up 90 degrees. And then these parts actually tab in here. They secure, which is good. And then we can futz with the back of the head for a minute. We can bring out these jet nozzles, by the way. His eyeballs. He can go all googly-eyed if you wanted him to. This rotates. This pops out and flips around like this, and kind of you have to kind of push it, but it pops in. It's gonna be the back of the jet. And then this flips down. You just have to make sure the tip of it kind of clears that area there. But there is a tab hole here and a tab, and those need to be aligned for the whole thing to seat together properly. So we're just going to make sure that tab goes in. And so the whole thing sits down real flat like that. The ball popped out. So not as flat as I was saying. And then this rotates 180 degrees. Has a couple of clearance issues as it goes around. And then this flips down, and you can see these two tabs end up going into the two holes. And make sure these are still tabbed in, and then this rotates the rest of the way and kind of seats there. And it drove me crazy. The instructions are kind of vague, like the pictures are kind of hard to see. But they're like, oh, bring these together. What you don't realize at first is that these are panels on rocker arms. So they're the ones that move together towards the center, not the whole head. There's no clearance at all for you to put these two halves back together in the front. But now we've pretty much done that whole part of the jet. And we do want to rotate this 180 degrees. So his mouth is looking over his back at this point. And then it helps to get the hip skirts out of the way temporarily. I didn't do it in the video, but it helps. And then you can flip this up, unlocking the waist. And then you can pop that off, and the whole thing ends up behind him, his legs and his back. The back, you can kind of extend it like this. And we're just going to leave it out of the way for now. I used it to kind of keep the thing standing so I could do the arms. The arms can be a little challenging. But what you got to do is start with the arm with the gun. You can see my repair there again. That one's all smooth and this one's all repaired. It actually prevents this arm from seating quite right, but it's not the end of the world. But basically the arms have to rotate and then seat like that. And then this part, this actually tabs. There's a tab here in a hole. So you untab that, and then you can rotate this up, and you can kind of swing it in position. You just gotta want to make sure these sort of teeth ornaments end up not under, you don't want them like that. You want them on top of the thing. You can rotate the arm 180 degrees, bring the gun around, and it really helps before you get too far down the road to get the landing gear out, which also kind of forces the crotch lock back into position. You bring this around and tuck it under this plate. So you tuck it under there and make sure that it gets inserted into the hole there. And now you've got the cockpit of the jet. And then this arm rotates, 22.5 degrees so the fist hole is going transverse like that. And now this arm, we want to just remember that the goal is for this top plate to be here, so you can do that. But this part, it kind of moves forward and plugs into the back of his fist. And then this stays loose, stays out. And then you rotate the arm like 90 degrees, and you can start maneuvering everything to be here, like that. And then this plugs into the other fist. We make sure our ornaments are on top like that. And you can see the broken arm causes it to be a little distorted, so it kind of angles to the side a little bit there. Hopefully I'll get a replacement or something, but they'll probably offer me some amount of store points, and then I'll be like, well, fine, whatever, I don't care. Not ideal. So then there's a lot of kind of linkages there, but they're very solid. I mean, the thing when I transformed it, it held every position I wanted it to along the way. Mostly because it's such a small figure. But this lays down like that and then flips over, and there's actually a couple of tabs that go into these two holes in his chest. So his back ends up plugged into his chest like that. And then you got to rotate these at some point, so I'll do it now. And It goes almost all the way around. All right. And then there is a tab here. It's actually part of the crotch lock mechanism, but it's reused to tab into the back of this, which is actually the through hole for the ball socket. So they reuse their through holes pretty good. But it actually tabs in there. That's how you know it's lined up properly. So now there's that. And then the feet kind of, there's a little bit of a tab there that catches the foot when you're in robot mode. But we're just flipping this like this. And like this. And then what you want is for the ankles to be angled like aggressively inward. So your goal is to be kind of like that. And then you're trying to get everything lined up. But you put those together and then you tab them onto the tabs in the back. So it kind of tabs like that. And then you want to make sure that the legs have actually gone all the way down. So I just kind of push on the knees. Make sure they're flush right there instead of sticking up. And then you can take the sword, the tiny little sword, and plug it in there. These, you might think you want to line these the rotation cylinders up with that cylinder, but they actually have to be up a little bit so that these pegs will go into the hole in the sword. There we go. And then I didn't put this on right away like I did in the video, but two of the sides, two sides opposite each other actually have little holes instead of just details, and they go on a little peg right there, and then it plugs in right there. And it turns into a really decent depiction of the Megatron jet. And so you wouldn't think it turned into some crazy super deformed thing, but it does. And if you get the legs right, you should find the whole thing sits flat. And that's how to put it in plane mode. So we'll play a little comment catch-up. Fortunately, I'm not too popular, so there's not too many comments. RL had to go. That's a shame. Let's see. Did you expect me to be Japanese? I don't know why. Probably their biggest market for these figures is the U.S. market with more people and everything. I know it's got a lot of parts. I think it's really solidly built. I think it's just a fluke that arm was broken. I mean, it was broken in the package. You can see a live stream from a couple of weeks ago where I unpacked it live, and as I went to rotate the arm, it just fell off. It was already cracked and broken. But I think that's a fluke. I wouldn't really hold that against Viimee Toys, unless, you'd have to see if there's more reports of that kind of thing. But I think the whole thing is very well constructed. I did find that they put a lot of weathering finish on it. And the first couple of days that I was handling this, my fingertips became gray. Almost like I was holding a number 2 pencil by the tip. So it had a lot of kind of weathering paint that kind of came off. But after a couple of days, it stopped happening. So at this point, I can handle it without it making my fingers a different color. It's probably lead paint. We're all going to die. But why is it so dark? It's just how I adjust the camera. So, I mean, here. What's the room really look like? Here you go. Here it comes. That's what the room really looks like. Back in the day, when I first started taking Instagram photos, I found that, I set up a white light box, but then you got to go down to the light box to take your picture. And sometimes I'm just sitting on the sofa and I just want to take a picture, but I don't want my whole room in the background. And I discovered if I got the camera pretty close to the figure, especially smaller figures, and I took a flash picture with the camera with Instagram, the background would be pretty much almost black. It's only enhanced when you actually put a black curtain in the background. And so when I started shooting videos, that was kind of my style at that point, was to have the black background. And frankly, it's a lot easier to work with than a light box. You don't have to have a box around it for one thing, but I just found it easier to work with. easier to post-production because you just have black. And you, like in Photoshop, the default color for like when you erase part of a picture is black. That's like the default background. So there's really not much to think about or worry about if the background's black, and so everything's black. I think it's very striking, and some people bitch about it, but I like it. This isn't actually the studio I shoot stop motion in. This is just my office. Because I don't want to sit down there. I suppose I should do a studio tour, but it's a mess. I don't want to show it off that much. This is apparently a different company. I mean, you never know if these companies just changed names and did something different. This is nowhere near the scale of that Chibi Metroplex, so I wouldn't assume just because it's Chibi that the same company made it. It's just the style. So I don't think it's any relation at all. It kind of looks like a bobblehead or a what do you call it, a pop, vinyl pop figure. I am kind of caught up on the comments, so I'll transform it back into robot mode. So I'm just going to take the weapon off the back here. Set that aside. Untab these and free up the sword. We can set that aside. And then we'll untab the feet from their position here. Get the legs freed up and lift them up. Mostly. Straighten out the ankles and bring that until it clicks, and then bring the toe over. Do the same thing on this side. Sometimes that gets rotated, the ankle joint, because it's just ball joints. So you just have to make sure it's straight when you go to tab it, because it will kind of click in there, and then you can bring it around once the tab is engaged. And then we lift this up, and we just want to rotate these pretty much 180 degrees, pretty much. They never quite line up with this barrel here, and they never quite line up with the front in order to be properly lined up. So we untab the back and bring it down out of the way. And now we can stand if you're stop motion transforming them conveniently. I mean, you could pretty much finish, well, you do have to do the arms before you do this. I mean, it's pretty much the right sequence. This likes to rotate one way better than the other way because of the way the chest is asymmetrical. So it goes that way better. We want to untab this and lift it up. And we also want to untab the fist from this whole armature from this other fist that's here. And then we can, this is the part where it's going to break on the live stream. But you need to get the whole thing to rotate. You need this whole section to rotate like this. You need it to go here. So there is a joint for that. And so we're going to do that. It twists on that repaired armature, so it makes me nervous. But you're just trying to lift it up like that. See, they talked about the light, but now it's way too bright, too washed out. So I'm going to bring it down a notch. Yeah, that's good enough. So you bring this up, and then you can rotate it. So you see it's like just a little double joint right on top of itself. And then you bring it around, and you can actually tab it into this tab. Like that. And then I make sure I'm not going to twist the joint too hard. The joint's gotten a lot looser. When I first got it, the joint was really tight, and I think that contributed to the hairline crack in that armature breaking. But I mean, it broke real easy. But that just goes like that. So this never really collapses again. Like you lift it up, but then when you put it in arm mode, it's just like that. So we're going to work this out of its hole, work it out from under this, and rotate it around. This whole arm rotates a little bit this way. And then we can do the same thing with this arm where we want to make it go like this. And then we can rotate it and tab it. Bring the shoulder down. Then the arm can rotate whenever you find convenient, 180 degrees. And now we've got the two arms and we're ready to go. So now we can take the legs down and collapse the little landing gear, which brings the crotch lock out. And we're just taking this notch that, you know, cleverly enough was the same notch that this kind of plugged into. Put that notch right there. And we're going to fit it over that post. So the whole thing sits down flush. This kind of eats its own armature on the way. So it folds up double. And then we're just going to bring that and lock it in and then engage the crotch lock. And now we have the whole body done. That's where the body comes from. The rest of the jet is going to be the head, as you saw earlier. So we're just going to rotate this around 180. We're going to put these two plates away. We're going to lift up this 90 degrees. We're going to untab these bits here. We're going to untab the head bit and turn it around 180 degrees. We're going to lift out the top of the head. We're going to flip this around. And if you haven't turned the back of the head around 180 degrees, it'll collide with the armature. So it's good to turn that first, because then it'll sit down flat. And then we can fold at this hinge here 90 degrees. Rotate the whole thing 180. He's coming together now. And we want to collapse these head segments inward so they meet. And they meet there. And there's actually little tabs. It's hard to explain, but you see that little tooth. That's got to line up with the face. So it kind of tabs in there. So if you see a bit of a gap, then you haven't tabbed it yet. Let me just make sure I have it. You can collapse the eyes whenever you find convenient. Then we lower down these bits here. We have to remember to put the wings away first. I've done this many, many times where I put the whole head together and the wings are sticking out. So you got to remember the wings end up inside the head. We're going to untab this bit. A lot of times when you're manipulating this is when that ball joint's going to pop loose, but hopefully I can do this without screwing it up. You just want to make sure the wing ends up going under the exhaust there, and then you can plug this in. And the whole head stays a little bit loose until you get the wings positioned and everything lined up. This goes like this, and then this is going to start coming together. And the wings go away, and the face locks together here. I don't feel like this one quite locked in, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. And then the wings and the face and the wings and the face and the wings and the face. Just have to make sure they end up there. These actually tab in very nicely onto a groove on the just above the nose. And then this rotates around. Again, this tab gets reused in the center of the head there. And then you can kind of do that thing where you cock the chin forward a little bit. And you get your little chibi Last Night Megatron. And it's really fun, really clever. This is VM02. I suspect that VM01 was a not widely released version of Squeaks, because VM0, I don't know, I lose track of the numbers at this point, but the Squeaks you can buy now is like a clear, like a translucent version of Squeaks. I don't like Squeaks that much, so I'm not going to buy it. But one thing I am tempted by is the next big project they have pictures of is the twins that turn into the ice cream truck. And, you know, they're big head just like this guy. I mean, the Bay designs were kind of ugly, but they were pretty creatively designed, so. Well, thank you, Leon. I do deserve more subscribers. I'll get there one of these days. I get a lot of views, though. I get more views than people with more subs than I do, so that works out. Am I going to get more Legends class figures? I mean, I don't know which ones you're referring to. I have a lot of Legends class figures. They're just not necessarily the top priority for doing stop motion. Plus, they're so small. The smaller figures, you almost have to remove them from the platform and then make a tweak and then put it back on the platform. And then you got to line it up. You got to make sure it's lined up with the previous picture, and that can be really tedious. The bigger figures, even a guy this size, isn't too bad because you can lock them down to the platform and you're not trying to deal with anything too small. But Legends figures would be a real challenge. I did the Dinobots, the DX9 Dinobots, and they're Legends technically, but they're pretty big figures because they're Dinobots, I guess. And they weren't too bad to deal with. But you can see them jitter all over the place because I'm trying to transform something and like I have to take it off, move it, and put it back and make sure it's lined up. If you're doing stop motion, your best friend, the best way to keep things clean and still is just find a way to glue the thing down. Even if you're only going to do like 5 moves, glue it down so it doesn't move. But it depends on your scenario. Like I shoot on a marble, flat, smooth marble platform, so sticky tack or glue dots work pretty good for sticking it down. But if you're trying to shoot on, I don't know, cardboard or something, you might have a little harder time getting it to stick. Anyway, it's not a big discussion today. Any of you guys ever have the Voyager version of Last Night Megatron? He got a little dusty on the shelf. It's time to burn him off. All right. I'll see if I can remember this guy. I like him. It was a clever figure. I remember liking how the whole thing... I came up with the sequence for it, but I never shot it. I mean, that's... Before I was shooting stop motion sequences, I would just get obsessed with like the perfect way to transform a figure without anything running into anything else, like moving parts at the right moment. I'd just be sitting on the couch and just, coming up with sequences. That was kind of my main obsession. And I was like, well, I need to share this information with the other people because no one's as smart as me. No one could come up with sequences, but sometimes I'd come up with a clever way to do a particularly tricky figure, and I figured, I just gotta find some way to share this. But I'd watch reviews, and I've mentioned this before, but reviewers will just all the time be like, now it's very important when you fold this thing up that you have to get it just like this. Oh, and they just never, they never edit. So it wanders out of frame and they just don't care. Like, I guess later on they get into the editing studio and they're like, well, that's what that is. Who cares? Whatever. So that would always drive me nuts. And then I got a little stop motion program for my phone. I forget what it was called. I remember it looked like a Lego brick. So it was like not even 4. I mean, like it was some sort of, it wasn't Lego, like Lego branded, but it looked like a Lego brick, whatever it was. That was the app icon. And I played around with that a couple of times, and I was like, oh, okay, I get this. And so then I started doing more complicated things. And then I found a piece of software. I had a spare laptop. I've been using that ever since. And the rest is history. I wish I could remember. Does this fold over? I think so. And that's for robot mode. This is for plane mode. I think. We're getting there. We'll get there. He's not that complicated. I'm just trying to remember where everything is supposed to end up. The wings need to end up outwards, so I guess the legs end up together like that. And we can flip up the feet. And they go under the wings, don't they? Yeah. There's a little tab there. Bop, 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 bop. This Voyager figure is really great. I mean, they could release this again in Studio Series. This is like at the point in the movie lines where I feel like the Studio Series team was already kind of assembled. Like they were already kind of doing things the Studio Series way. And so, yeah, I'm missing something there. I know this comes up like this. But where do the arms end up, huh? Did these flip around? Trying to remember. It's been a long time. One of the reasons I didn't bother showing you the leader class figure, because A, I hate it. It's not very well done, and it falls apart. And for basically that reason that it falls apart is I don't want to try to do it live on camera because I don't remember how it goes. It's garbage. I feel like I'm missing something here. What am I missing? What is it, guys? Who has this? Tell me how it's done. I feel like I am missing the boat here. There's no rotation joint there. Where do the arms end up? Maybe they're supposed to be this way? I feel like they end up underneath, but they shouldn't stick out that much. That's kind of dumb. Why would anyone do it like that? The wings need to be straight, so I'm pretty sure the legs kind of end up like this. I don't think the wings rotate in any other way. Like the wings don't rotate independent of the lower legs, so that's not done. Well, I don't know. I feel like I'm missing it. And this definitely lines up already, so it's just a matter of figuring out where the arms go. Where do the arms go? Where do they go? Where do they go? Where do they go? Where's the chest end up? You could kind of do it like this. Maybe it's a bit baffling to me. I might have to pull up a picture of it in plane mode just so I can remember where the arms end up. I think these are supposed to be... I don't think it rotates at the waist, so I'm not missing that. The wings are where they're supposed to be. That's why I usually I would have, especially Chosen Prime would loan me figures and not send the instructions. And it's like the instructions are a lot of times pretty terrible, but at least they show you. You can at least peer at them and get an idea. They point out something that's supposed to move that maybe you wouldn't realize was supposed to move. But I don't know. I'm just not sure what's supposed to happen to the arms. It's interesting. Wait a minute. That folds up like that. The arms end up in the middle somehow. Well, gang, I give up. I have to take a picture of it. TLK Voyager Megatron. I'm gonna Google it. And we'll look at. What does it do? What? Where are the okay, there's those. What do the arms do? Let's find another picture. Maybe someone took a picture from the back of the plane mode. Okay, well these definitely end up down. Do these fold further down and I'm just missing it? Maybe they do. Yeah. Let's just get the legs out of the way. Do these stay this way? Yeah. Yeah, we're getting there. That's what I was missing. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, and this, this feeds up through. Okay. Yeah. All right. Feeds up through there, and then these tab together. All right, that makes more sense. Those kind of just fold up on the side. Ah, looky-loo. And the legs have to tab to something, don't they? What do you think? Do they tab somewhere, or do they just rest? Well, they do get pretty straight if you do them like that, so I guess that's fine. Ah, that's where the tab comes in. Part of that part. All right, we're getting there. We did it. It's been a long time since I handled this. I used to have it all worked out, like, it would be like, shh. It's a venerable design. It's good. Yeah, and that's where those... I noticed the wings had... These little flaps had tabs on them. And the tabs go into the arm bits. All right. I'm gonna watch the analytics for this video and watch how everyone dropped off when I started fucking up with this thing. That's pretty cool. That was one of the best versions of them from the mainstream toy line. Someone did an extra transbot Stunicon arm transformation and something else off screen. I was pretty disappointed, right? That's what I mean, the great thing about doing it in stop motion, I mean, granted it's a little tedious to do it in stop motion, is you don't have a hand in the way. And since you're only carefully taking one picture at a time, the figure is never going to be off screen. You're never going to wander off screen. You're never going to bump your camera. Everything's going to be nice and clean. Yeah, the paint apps are pretty weak on the TLK toys. I agree, Max. Hey again, Peelos. Hey, Logan. How are you doing? Been a sec, alright? Good to see you again, or see you in the chat. Last night Voyager Optimus wasn't bad. It's a bit kibbly. You know, it's not Unique Toys Challenger. And really, Unique Toys Challenger doesn't have that high a part count. If Hasbro wanted to do a Unique Toys Challenger, just a smaller scale than Unique Toys did, they could have totally done it. It's an elegant, simple design, and it doesn't have some kind of crazy high part count. But Hasbro is kind of lazy sometimes, and they just put a bunch of shit on the backpack. I mean, even Viimee Toys knows how to make the back look like a back, and God knows, Unique Toys can make a back look like a back. Gorgeous. But for some reason, Hasbro doesn't want to go the extra mile and figure out how to actually transform a figure so it looks right from all angles. In fact, I'll turn this guy back into a robot so we can look how horrible his back looks. And he's not one of the worst ones, you know. There's worse ones. My respect and appreciation goes out to everyone who tries to transform this stuff first to show the public the right way. Okay, well, you're welcome. I'm always flummoxed when someone's like, oh, I bought this Transformer, but I just left it in the box. And I'm like, how could you resist manipulating it? I mean, it's like the whole point. So I'm a little OCD about the whole thing, so I'm perfectly happy presenting what I think is the best sequence, and then people can maybe learn from it. Oh, the guy, Epic Disaster, that does the Chosen Prime videos, he's one of the few reviewers I've seen that really seems to grok or understand the figure that he's showing. I mean, you see a lot of reviewers, and it's probably because they're trying to be first out the gate and get their review done, or they have to hurry up, and they're working with they used to work more with samples, and so they have to pass it on to the next reviewer or whatever. But a lot of times those guys are like, you're watching a review and it's just like when I just did this guy, you know, where you're like, oh, you kind of, and they're backtracking and they don't know how it works. But that dude, Epic Disaster, that does the Chosen Prime reviews now, is really good. He really understands them. Yeah, they had the pointer video for Fans Toys Warpath. I mean, they have good videos. I just didn't want to make I didn't want to make their content for them anymore. I am doing well, thank you. I'm going to steal one of these lights. Bo 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 do bo bo do bo 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 bo. It's all coming back to me now. I don't know. I'm almost to robot mode now. But this guy's not too bad. He doesn't have too bad a backpack. I think that's part of the reason I like this version, this Transformer, because it's actually pretty clever. And it actually hides a lot of the vehicle components. It's really not too bad, especially for a Voyager figure. Although you find that the leader class figures will have a lot of... some some sort of gimmick or something built into them that actually makes them less elegant. And the Voyager figures a lot of times are like the right scale to be elegant. And so we'll get the light back. The back's not too bad. I mean, he doesn't have like a huge backpack. That's nice. So I'll give him points. A lot of the Voyager figures are pretty good. Not too bad. Yeah, I just didn't want to... I didn't want to... It's awkward to hold my arms out all the way over here because I'm sitting way over here. And, you know, that's why I'm a little sympathetic to the reviewers because they're kind of doing the same thing. They're reaching around their camera. I reach around my camera when I do the stop motion, and you just don't ever have to see my hands because they're not there anymore by the time I take the picture. Anyway, this coming Sunday we'll be doing the Generation Toy Red Bull. That's the one that kind of looks like Sideswipe, but it turns into a bull. I've got that one all worked out. It doesn't really have any clearance issues. If you do it the right way, you get the shoulders out of the way, so the chest plates can get out of the way. Then putting the horns of the bull away isn't too hard. So that'll be this Sunday. I do have Kang Toys, whatever the name of it is, the first part of their Predaking combiner. It's kind of stylized, and it's not exactly like G1 or anything, but I like the look of it. And so I'm going to take a chance on it. It looks like it has some weird little clearance issues, so hopefully I can come up with a clean way of doing it that will shed some light on it for people that have it. I've still got this guy waiting in the wings. I worked with him for a week, and I've got him worked out. He's not as bad as his reputation suggests. He's a little funny, but it's going to be kind of fun to show off this. I guess I kind of like triple changers, especially since I figured out how to shoot triple changers where later on I can edit it to show all transitions. You know, because you have vehicle 1 to vehicle 2, and you have vehicle 1 to robot, and you have vehicle 2 to robot, and then you have robot to vehicle 1, robot to vehicle 2, and vehicle 2 to vehicle 1. So you have six kinds of transformations, but I only have to shoot 3 half sequences. I've described that before in some of my stop motion or my triple changer videos. Ferocious, yes, that's his name, thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. He'll probably be in time for next weekend, so it'll probably be Generation Toy Red Bull, and then Kang Toys Ferocious, and then who knows what the future may bring. My word on the street is that the Zeta Cell 1 Unicron is going to be released very soon. I've been talking to Show Z about what I got to do to get the shipping as fast as possible. It's nice to be topical and get it out before other people have it, if I can. So we'll see what happens. Things have to go through customs and stuff, so I don't know that the Zeta Unicron has much of a chance of beating that slot after Kang Toys. So chances are it'll be Evilla Star, this guy. He will be after Ferocious. And then at some point I got to get back and do Mixmaster for the Revenge of the Fallen Devastator for Hasbro. But that Unicron's going to be glorious. It's going to be so fun. I mean, it's tricky. It looks tricky, but it's going to be so fun to put that together. And I'm really going to, I don't know how I'm going to film it in robot mode, because it's not as big as like the Hasbro garbage Unicron, but it's a pretty big figure. Maybe one of the bigger figures I did was like that, I can't remember the name of it. It was a loaner from Chosen Prime, but it turned into like a dragon. Not the red, well, the Red Dragon 2 was a loaner from Prime, so yeah, that Red Dragon was really big. The Perfect Effect, is that it? Yeah, Perfect Effect, Beast Wars 2, Transmetal, Red Dragon Megatron. Anyway, we're running out of time. Appreciate you all dropping by. We'll do the old, 2-minute warning or whatever for final questions. You're talking about Unicron? Yeah, Unicron is, I think he's like 18 inches. So he is, you see how big this guy is. If I bring this guy down, that Zeta Unicron is like a bit taller than him. He is maybe to the top of the sword here. So you can see the sword sticks up pretty far at this point. So pretty tall, but not ridiculously tall. I would much rather have a Unicron that transformed clean and looked clean and didn't have a bunch of potato chips stacked up on his legs and his back. Doragon, yes, thank you. I would much rather have that at a smaller scale. Because, I mean, there's no way you're going to have Unicron to scale. It would fill a room. Probably more. I mean, if Unicron is even the size of, like, the Earth's moon, then, I don't know what the, scale factor is. But Unicron would be impossibly large as a toy if it was to scale. And I know people like having like a big set piece, but I mean, frankly, that Hashtag or the Hasbro Labs Unicron, in my opinion, you should put it in planet mode because that's the only mode that looks clean, and you should just fill up a shelf with it, I guess. But I'd rather have a smaller Unicron that transformed neat and tidy. I mean, I'd be perfectly happy with a Unicron this size if it was clever and fun. But it looks like the Zeta/Cell 1 Unicron is going to be pretty impressive, pretty fun. But yeah, still big. I mean, it's 18 inches. It's pretty huge. It's bigger than most figures. I mean, I don't. Maybe I'm missing something. I don't know what the movie accurate version of Unicron transforming is. That what Hasbro HasLab was trying to do, like a movie accurate transformation of Unicron? Because he just folds up with both legs folding up, which is pretty much how the original like Unicron toy that came out in Armada transformed, where you have a robot and it just folds up, with both legs folding up. The clever thing about the Zeta one is that they, imagine turning the waist 90 degrees sideways and one leg goes in front and one leg goes in back, and you kind of establish that sphere. You fill the sphere with robot, and so you get a much tidier transformation that way. Oh, right. I mean, and the price. Like, if you buy a Zeta, you'll have a better Unicron that transforms. It looks like Unicron in robot mode, and it'll still look like Unicron in planet mode. Clever, gets rid of all of the kibble. Wonderful figure, and it's, I don't know, what is it, 300 or something? And if you want to get the Hasbro one, you got something you're gonna have trouble figuring out where to put it in your collection because it's so goddamn big. You don't need to invite a friend over to transform it because it's so goddamn big, and it has like stacks of plates, potato chips behind the calves, next to the calves. The back is like he looks like he belongs in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles toy line when you turn him around backwards. And the whole time, every picture I see, they've got that stand up his ass. And so, I mean, my impression is he can't really stand by himself. Let's see a picture of him standing by himself. So, I don't know. It was just too much. And it follows that Transformers Siege aesthetic. And like, who wanted a Unicron that was in the Siege aesthetic? There's nothing wrong with the Siege aesthetic, but I mean, we all wanted like a G1 Unicron. And they were like, let's make it a Siege toy. I don't know. I'm not impressed. And the damn thing is like, $800 or $900 depending on where you get it. It's just, it's excessive. And it's ugly for what you pay for it. I advise against it. If any of you are looking to blow up almost $1,000 on Unicron, you should rethink that shit. All right, ladies and gentlemen, folks, I'm gonna head on my way here. Look for Generation Toy Red Bull on Sunday. We'll discuss it on Wednesday. And then we'll move on with our lives from that point. Thanks for dropping by. Never get many people on my live streams, but I do get some reviews later on, and maybe, I don't know how many people have this figure, but maybe it sheds a little light on things for people. Anyway, have a nice day, have a nice weekend, stay safe. Remember, if you're gonna loot a store, no more than 25 looters in the store at a time. That's safety, people. Anyway, I'll talk to you later. Bye.